First contact gone wrong. The HMS Trickster wasn't supposed to be humanity's first contact with alien life. That honor should have gone to one of the sleek diplomatic vessels, all curved lines and gleaming hulls, specifically designed to make a good first impression. Instead, thanks to a navigational error that would later be called the luckiest mistake in human history, it was a retrofitted cargo hauler that stumbled across the hegemony's advance fleet. Captain Sarah Chen stood on her bridge, watching the massive alien vessels through the main viewport. The Trickster had originally been designed to haul industrial equipment between Earth's colonies, and it showed. The ship looked like someone had welded rocket engines to a collection of shipping containers and called it a day, which, to be fair, wasn't far from the truth. "They're hailing us, Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez announced from his communication station. Translation Matrix is having trouble with their language, but it's definitely a first contact protocol. Sarah straightened her non-regulation jacket, another quirk of the Trickster's unofficial status, and nodded. "Put them through." The alien that appeared on the main screen looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a crystal chandelier. Its translucent body caught and reflected light in mesmerizing patterns as it moved. "Unknown vessel," the translation matrix rendered in slightly stilted English. "You have entered restricted hegemony space. Identify yourself or be destroyed." Sarah blinked. That didn't sound much like a first contact protocol. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the HMS Trickster. We represent humanity and the Earth Coalition. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations." The alien's crystalline structure vibrated in what Sarah's gut told her was amusement. "Humanity. Yes, we have been monitoring your radio transmissions for some time. Your species is chaotic, undisciplined, a potential threat to galactic order." "Well, that's not very nice," Sarah muttered under her breath before raising her voice. "I assure you, we mean no harm. We're simply explorers seeking peaceful contact with other civilizations. Your assurances are irrelevant. The hegemony has determined that preemptive action is required. Your vessel will be destroyed as an example. Resistance is futile." The transmission cut off, and Sarah watched as the alien vessels began moving into attack formation. Their crystalline hulls sparkled ominously in the starlight, weapon ports opening like deadly flowers blooming in space. "Well," Sarah said, a grin slowly spreading across her face that would have made the hegemony very nervous if they'd known what it meant. "If they want to skip the diplomacy and go straight to seeing what humanity's really capable of, who are we to disappoint them?" She turned to her crew, all of whom were watching her, with expressions ranging from excitement to concern. They knew that look. It was the same look she'd had when she proposed using modified pressure washers to clear asteroid fields, or when she'd suggested solving their fuel efficiency problems by essentially turning the cargo hold into history's largest slingshot. "Rodriguez, get me engineering. Park, prepare for emergency maneuvering. And someone wake up Dr. Zhang in the science lab. Tell her it's time to test her theory about using soap bubbles in zero gravity." As her crew scrambled to comply, Sarah took one last look at the approaching alien fleet. They expected a primitive species, fighting according to their rigid rules of warfare. Instead, they were about to learn why humans had survived everything their own planet had thrown at them for millions of years. "Let's show them why they call us the Trickster." The art of confusion. "Dr. Zhang, please tell me you have good news," Sarah called out as she strode into the science lab, ducking under a floating array of what appeared to be soap bubbles encased in electromagnetic fields. The ship's lead scientist barely looked up from her workstation, her augmented reality displays reflecting off her safety goggles. "Define good news, Captain. If you mean, have I figured out how to weaponize children's party supplies? Then yes. If you mean, will the ethics committee approve? Then absolutely not." The entire lab looked like a cross between a top-secret research facility and a dollar store that had exploded. Ordinary items that had been part of the Trickster's cargo manifest were now being repurposed in ways their manufacturers had definitely not intended. Sarah loved it. The hegemony ships use crystalline-based technology, Dr. Zhang explained, finally turning away from her displays. Their sensors, weapons, even their hulls, all based on precisely aligned crystalline structures. Beautiful engineering, really. Completely predictable frequency responses. Absolutely terrible against chaos theory. Sarah picked up what looked like a modified paint sprayer. And this helps us how? That, Dr. Zhang said with barely contained glee, is filled with what we're calling quantum glitter. Regular glitter mixed with nanoscale resonance crystals. One blast of this, and their sensor crystals will be trying to align with about 1 million different frequencies at once, like giving their entire sensor array a migraine. Before Sarah could respond, the ship's intercom crackled to life. Captain to the bridge. Hegemony ships are moving into attack formation. Sarah was already running, the quantum glitter sprayer tucked under her arm. How many ships do we have this ready for? 3 sprayers. Dr. Zhang called after her. Don't waste them. And Captain, try to record their reaction. For science. The bridge was a flurry of activity when Sarah arrived. The main display showed 5 hegemony vessels, their crystalline hulls catching starlight like deadly prisms, arranged in a perfect pentagon formation. Their formation is too perfect, Sarah mused, studying the display. Too rigid. Lieutenant Park, what's our maneuverability looking like? The pilot grinned. Engineering just finished installing the emergency thrusters. We can turn this brick like a ballet dancer, Captain, for about 30 seconds before things start breaking. 30 seconds is all we need. Rodriguez, get me ship-wide. The communications officer nodded, and Sarah addressed her crew. Listen up, everyone. We're about to try something that violates about 15 different space warfare conventions. Anyone who doesn't want this on their record should log their objection now. She paused. No objections came. Right then, initiating Operation Party Crasher. The next few minutes were chaos. Exactly as planned. The trickster, moving with decidedly un-cargo ship-like agility, dove straight into the middle of the hegemony formation. The alien ships, their battle computers presumably struggling to understand why prey would charge its predators, hesitated for crucial seconds. Now, Sarah ordered, and the trickster's newly installed spray ports opened up, releasing clouds of quantum glitter into space. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The hegemony ship's perfect formation dissolved as their sensors went haywire, their crystalline systems trying desperately to process the conflicting signals. They're firing, Park announced, but their shots went wide, their targeting systems thoroughly confused by the quantum interference. Phase 2, Sarah commanded. Dr. Zhang, activate the bubbles. Thousands of electromagnetically contained soap bubbles, each one carrying a precise frequency disruptor, deployed from the trickster's cargo holds. As they burst against the hegemony ship's hulls, the disruptors activated, sending ripples of chaos through their crystalline structures. The result was beyond even Dr. Zhang's wildest predictions. The hegemony ship's perfect crystalline forms began to sparkle with random patterns, their formerly synchronized systems falling into beautiful disorder. Their weapons powered down as their energy crystals lost alignment, and their communications dissolved into garbled static. Are they playing music? Rodriguez asked incredulously, adjusting his headphones. Indeed, the interference patterns in the hegemony ship's crystals were creating something that sounded suspiciously like jazz. Quantum harmonics. Dr. Zhang's voice came over the comm, filled with academic excitement. The random vibrations in their crystals are creating emergent patterns. It's fascinating. We've essentially turned their ships into giant wind chimes. Sarah watched as the mighty hegemony fleet, pride of their military, drifted helplessly in space, their ships twinkling like disco balls and emanating improvised crystal jazz into the void. Send a message to Earth Command, she ordered Rodriguez. Tell them we've made first contact, and we've already got them dancing to our tune. As her crew worked to secure their improbable victory, Sarah couldn't help but smile. The hegemony had expected primitive brutes with primitive weapons. Instead, they got human ingenuity at its finest, turning children's toys and party supplies into the galaxy's most effective warfare countermeasures. She had a feeling this was just the beginning of humanity's reputation for unconventional problem-solving. Somewhere in the chaos, one of the hegemony ships had started playing what sounded suspiciously like bebop. Pride before the fall. 2 weeks after the trickster's encounter with the hegemony patrol, Sarah found herself standing before the Earth Defense Council, trying to explain why her cargo ship had turned 5 advanced alien warships into floating disco balls. "Let me get this straight," Admiral Harrison said, pinching the bridge of his nose. "You defeated a technologically superior alien force using glitter, soap bubbles, and jazz." "Technically, sir, the jazz was an unintended side effect," Sarah replied, maintaining her professional demeanor despite the grin threatening to break through. Dr. Zhang is still studying the harmonic implications. Before the Admiral could respond, the emergency alerts blared. The massive display screen behind the Council lit up, showing a massive hegemony fleet emerging from faster-than-light travel near Saturn's orbit. This wasn't a patrol, it was an invasion force. 57 ships, someone whispered. "We don't have anything that can match that kind of firepower." Sarah stepped forward. "Permission to speak freely, sir." Admiral Harrison waved his hand. "At this point, Captain Chen, I think we're beyond formalities. We don't need to match their firepower," Sarah said, pulling up the data from the trickster's encounter. "The hegemony's greatest strength is their greatest weakness. Their technology, their tactics, their entire military doctrine. It's all based on perfect order, perfect synchronization. They literally cannot comprehend true chaos." She gestured to her ship's data. "The trickster didn't win because we had better weapons. We won because we introduced variables their battle computers couldn't process. We didn't fight their way. We made them fight our way." A slow smile spread across the Admiral's face. "And how quickly can we replicate your methods?" 24 hours later, Sarah stood on the trickster's bridge, watching as humanity's first true space fleet prepared for battle. It wasn't much to look at, mostly retrofitted cargo ships like the trickster, along with a handful of actual military vessels. But each one had been hastily equipped with what Dr. Zhang was now calling chaos generators. "All ships reporting ready," Captain Rodriguez announced. "Operation Cosmic Carnival is go." Sarah nodded. "Send the signal. Let's show the hegemony what happens when you push humanity into a corner." The battle that followed would later be dubbed the Disco Inferno by human historians and the Great Embarrassment by the hegemony. It began with 30 cargo ships releasing their holds full of quantum glitter into carefully calculated dispersal patterns, creating a shimmering cloud that played havoc with the hegemony sensors. As the alien fleet's perfect formation began to waver, the second phase began. Thousands of modified cleaning drones, their standard water jets replaced with Dr. Zhang's soap bubble generators, swarmed out from the human ships. They darted between the massive hegemony vessels, coating their crystalline hulls with chaos-inducing bubbles. But it was the third phase that truly broke them. "Execute Operation Earworm," Sarah commanded, and Rodriguez transmitted the signal. Every human ship began broadcasting. Not military signals or weapons fire, but music. Earth's greatest hits, specifically chosen for their ability to stick in one's head. Everything from classical to rock, from jazz to pop, all carefully calibrated to resonate with the hegemony's crystalline technology. The effect was beyond their wildest expectations. The hegemony ships, their systems already struggling with the quantum glitter and chaos bubbles, began to vibrate in sympathy with the music. Their perfectly aligned crystals, the pride of their engineering, started picking up and amplifying the songs. Sarah watched in amazement as the mighty invasion fleet transformed into the galaxy's largest impromptu concert venue. Some ships were pulsing with the rhythm of rock and roll, their hulls flashing like strobes. Others had their crystals oscillating to jazz frequencies, creating spontaneous light shows. One particularly unfortunate dreadnought had picked up "Never Gonna Give You Up" and was broadcasting it on all frequencies. Are they actually dancing?" Park asked incredulously, watching the hegemony ship's increasingly erratic movements. "Not intentionally," Dr. Zhang's voice came over the comm. "Their stabilization systems are trying to compensate for the crystal resonance. But effectively, yes, we just made an alien invasion fleet dance to Earth music." The hegemony commander's transmission, when it came, was almost anticlimactic. Their crystalline form was vibrating with what might have been rage, or possibly just the bass line from "Another One Bites the Dust." This is not warfare," they declared. "This is madness." "This," Sarah replied calmly, "is humanity. Would you like to discuss surrender terms, or should we start playing disco?" The hegemony fleet retreated so quickly they left afterimages, their once perfect formation now looking more like a scattered group of teenagers fleeing a broken-up party. Behind them, they left a sparkling cloud of quantum glitter that would continue to play random snippets of Earth music for the next 3 months, spreading chaos. The Galactic Council's emergency session was going about as well as Sarah had expected, which was to say, it was absolute chaos, which, she had to admit, felt oddly appropriate. The humans have made a mockery of civilized warfare. The hegemony representative's crystalline form was vibrating with such intensity that small prisms of light were dancing across the chamber walls. Their tactics violate every established convention of space combat. Sarah stood at the podium, representing Earth in what was supposed to be a disciplinary hearing. Instead, it had turned into something between a talent show and a trade negotiation, as various species sought to understand, and in some cases, purchase, humanity's combat innovations. "If I may," Sarah interjected, "I'd like to point out that nowhere in the Galactic Combat Conventions does it specifically prohibit the use of entertainment products as tactical assets." "She's technically correct." The jurisprudence AI chimed in, its holographic form flickering with what might have been amusement. "The conventions speak of weapons of war, but fail to define what constitutes a weapon. This oversight appears to be causing considerable disruption." The representative from the mercantile worlds leaned forward, their tentacles wiggling with interest. "Speaking of disruption, my Federation would be very interested in licensing the rights to these quantum glitter formulae. For purely defensive purposes, of course." "Of course," Sarah replied diplomatically, trying not to smile as she remembered how the mercantile worlds had already begun marketing disco defense systems to their allies. The council chamber erupted into a cacophony of voices as various representatives began making their own proposals. The Void Nomads wanted to know if the Chaos Bubble technology could be adapted for their nebula ships. The Silicon Collective was particularly interested in the mathematical principles behind weaponized jazz. "Order." The council chair's thunderous voice eventually restored some semblance of calm. "Captain Chen, while your methods are unorthodox, they have raised some interesting questions about the nature of warfare itself. Perhaps it is time for the galaxy to reconsider its approach to conflict resolution." Sarah seized the opportunity. "That's exactly what we've been trying to demonstrate. The hegemony attacked us because they saw our chaos as a threat to galactic order. But chaos isn't just destruction. It's creativity, adaptation, growth. Sometimes the most elegant solution is the one that makes you laugh." As if to prove her point, a small cleaning drone that had followed her into the chamber chose that moment to release a stream of iridescent bubbles. They floated through the grand chamber, catching the light and creating rainbow patterns that danced across the ancient walls. Several of the younger representatives began trying to pop them, much to their seniors' visible disapproval. "See." Sarah gestured to the scene, already more diplomatic than our first contact. The hegemony representative's crystalline form dimmed slightly. "You turned our most advanced battle fleet into a floating concert hall. And nobody died," Sarah pointed out. "Instead of destruction, we created something new. Different species are talking to each other, trading ideas, sharing music, Isn't that better than another war? The council chamber fell silent as her words sank in. Even the hegemony representative seemed to be considering them. Besides, Sarah added with a slight smile, I hear the quantum glitter nightclubs in the Orion Arm are doing fantastic business. Apparently, crystalline ships make excellent dance venues. The Silicon Collective's representative buzzed with what might have been laughter. She's right. Our latest data shows a 300% increase in cross-species cultural exchange in sectors exposed to human chaos theory. Violence is down, trade is up, and there's been an unexpected boom in what humans call party supplies. And the music? The Void Nomad asked, their ethereal form swaying slightly. Still stuck in everyone's head. Sarah confirmed. We're calling it the Great Galactic Earworm. Dr. Zhang is writing a paper about it. The council chair's appendages waved in what Sarah had learned was their equivalent of resigned acceptance. It seems we must either adapt to human chaos or be overwhelmed by it. Captain Chen, your species has managed to turn warfare into performance art. I'm not entirely sure if that's brilliant or terrifying. Why not both? Sarah suggested. That's kind of our specialty. The last laugh. 1 year after the infamous Disco Inferno battle, the HMS Trickster floated in high orbit above Earth, its hull now decorated with an unauthorized but tolerated coating of iridescent paint that changed color depending on the angle of starlight. Captain Sarah Chen stood at her familiar spot on the bridge, watching a very different galaxy than the one she'd first encountered. Incoming transmission from the Hegemony Cultural Exchange Vessel, Rodriguez announced, trying to keep a straight face. They're requesting permission to host a dance battle. Sarah grinned. Now there's a phrase I never thought I'd hear from the Hegemony. Accept their challenge, Lieutenant, and tell Dr. Zhang to bring out the special glitter. The main viewport showed the approaching Hegemony ship, its crystalline structure no longer the rigid military design of the past. The crystals had been deliberately grown in patterns that caught and reflected light in complex ways, creating natural light shows that pulsed in time with the music now being broadcast between the ships. You know, Park mused from his pilot's station, when we first loaded those cargo holds with party supplies, I didn't think we'd end up revolutionizing galactic society. Nobody ever does, Sarah replied. That's the beauty of human chaos. It's not about destroying order, it's about finding new ways to bring people together. Sometimes you just need to add a little glitter. The bridge crew watched as more ships arrived for what had become a regular event. The Silicon Collective had sent a delegation with their latest attempts at algorithmic jazz. The Void Nomad's nebula ships trailed cosmic dust that sparkled like starlit clouds. Even the mercantile whirls had gotten into the spirit, their vessels decorated with what their marketing department called tactical party aesthetics. Dr. Zhang's voice came over the intercom. Captain, you might want to see this. The quantum harmonics from all these ships. They're creating something new. Sarah made her way to the science lab, where the physicist was staring at her displays in wonder. The combined effect of dozens of ships using various forms of human chaos technology had created a massive, synchronized pattern of light and sound in space. It was beautiful, complex, and completely unplanned. It's perfect, Sarah said softly. Organized chaos. The ultimate expression of humanity's gift to the galaxy. Zhang agreed. We didn't just change how they fight. We changed how they think. The Hegemony's newest ships are designed to create harmony from discord. The Silicon Collective is studying randomness as an art form. Even the Galactic Council has officially recognized controlled chaos as a valid diplomatic strategy. A message flashed across Sarah's comm unit. The Hegemony ship was challenging them to open the dance battle with something called the Quantum Shuffle. Apparently, their crystal structures had developed a particular appreciation for Earth's swing music. Send them our response, Sarah told Rodriguez with a smile. And make sure everyone's ready. We're about to show them why they call us the Trickster. As the ships began their elaborate dance through space, their various technologies creating a symphony of light and sound, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. The hegemony had feared humanity's chaos would destroy galactic civilization. Instead, it had transformed it, creating something new and wonderful that no one could have predicted. The HMS Trickster, the ship that had started it all, took its position in the growing stellar ballet. Its quantum glitter sparkled, its chaos bubbles shimmered, and its hull pulsed with the rhythms of a dozen different species, all learning to dance together in the cosmic dark. And somewhere, in the vast expanse of space, the original cloud of quantum glitter from their first battle was still drifting, still playing random snippets of Earth music to passing ships. Some said it had developed its own rudimentary consciousness and was now taking requests. Sarah watched as a hegemony crystal ship performed a perfect spiral maneuver, trailing lights like a cosmic firework. "You know," she said to no one in particular, "sometimes the best way to bring order to the galaxy is to shake things up a bit." "Captain," Rodriguez called out, trying to contain his laughter. "The Silicon Collective is requesting permission to attempt something called breakdancing. Should I remind them about artificial gravity limitations?" "Let them try," Sarah replied with a grin. "After all, that's what humanity does best, trying the impossible, breaking the rules, and somehow making it work." Besides, she added, watching as the dance battle evolved into something that defied description, the galaxy could use a few more impossible things. The HMS Trickster spun through space, leading an impromptu chorus of ships in what historians would later call the first galactic flash mob. And if anyone thought it was undignified for the various species of the galaxy to be engaging in synchronized dance numbers in the void between stars, well, they kept it to themselves. Because, as humanity had proven, sometimes the best way to win wasn't to fight at all. It was to get everyone dancing to the same beat, even if that beat happened to include quantum physics and weaponized party supplies. And that, as Captain Sarah Chen would say in countless interviews and diplomatic functions afterward, was humanity's real gift to the galaxy, not the chaos itself, but the art of finding joy in the unexpected, beauty in the random, and friendship in the shared absurdity of it all.